Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rawnak Afroze, lecturer of School of Business Administration in East Delta University, and I'm the moderator for today's webinar. I hope you're all well and safe at home. So in East Delta University, we are very proud to share with you that we have conducted the highest number of webinars in the country so far during this time, and we've received wonderful feedbacks from all our audiences that has further encouraged us to continue and go strong with this initiative. So welcome to the 30th webinar hosted by East Delta University, and the topic for today's webinar is Recruitment Experiences in the Post-COVID-19 Era. So I would say this topic is very important and highly relatable, as this pandemic has led to significant changes in the current job market and opened vast opportunities for teleworking and work from home, which was previously frowned upon. Without any further delay, let's move on to the two speakers for today's webinar. So today we actually have a wonderful duet of two influential emerging corporate ladies, Miss Simin Chowdhury from Grameenphone Limited and Miss Tasnim from Standard Chartered Bank, Bangladesh. So a few words about them. Ms. Simin is currently the Circle HR head of Chattogram in Grameenphone. Previously, she was the business partner of the commercial division and also corporate functions. She started her career in Grameenphone as the learning manager, and prior to that, she worked in Accenture, Bangladesh, GPIT, as a recruitment specialist and competence development executive. About her academic background, she did her master's from Queen Mary University of London in international financial management, when she realized that she really liked working with and for people and was interested in the human aspect of any business. She believes that education is the most powerful weapon that can change the world, and this is the saying by Nelson Mandela. And in light of this belief, she has been sponsoring the education of a number of children along with other social work. She enjoys reading, writing, traveling, and being an audacious foodie and spending time with her family and friends. And the next speaker that we have is Miss Umme Tasnim. Tasnim is actually a close friend, a dear colleague. We work together in Robi in the HR department. And now Tasnim is currently the HR business advisor at Standard Chartered Bank, Bangladesh. And Tasnim is a HR professional with experience in working in banking and telco industries. And prior to her current role, she served as HR business partner in retail banking in SCB. Her past experience include working in recruitment, talent management, and leadership development in Robi Axiata and in Axiata Group Berhad in Malaysia. About her academic background, she's a graduate of Institute of Business Administration from Dhaka University, specializing in finance and human resources. Tasnim has had many significant contributions in both the companies, where in Robi, she drove the talent management agenda in a regional capacity for talent development, engagement, and deployment for Axiata Group and many more. And in Standard Chartered Bank, she's the founding member of Standard Chartered Pulse, the first millennial network in Standard Chartered Bank, Bangladesh. From ideation to implementation, they created this network with the aim to engage millennial talents through 4 key pillars, and they are wellness, social responsibility, professional development, and engagement. She's also certified as a human-centered design practitioner through Luma Institute that works for championing and enabling new ways of working and problem solving in the organization. So the plan for today's webinar is we have 2 short presentations by the 2 wonderful speakers where they will share their experiences and insights of the new and changing strategies of recruitment in the post-COVID era, and then followed by question answers before we conclude the session. So may I now welcome, without any further delay, may I now welcome Ms. Tasnim to kindly begin her part. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rawnak, and for the very nice introduction as well. And thank you to East Delta University for having me here. I'm really honored to be here and hope I can share a little bit of wisdom with the students and the graduates, which I hope will be useful for them. So as discussed, today's topic is recruitment experiences in the post-COVID-19 era. We're already here in the new normal, so I will touch upon a few things regarding the changes in the workplace as well as skills. So I'll just start by sharing my screen onto our presentation. So hope my screen is visible. Can everyone see my screen? Yeah. So just to begin, so first of all, before I go into the recruitment experience, I would like to touch upon a little bit about how workplaces and the way we work is fundamentally changing. So this pandemic has brought about something completely unprecedented for all of us. And when we say the new normal is here, it's not just a buzzword, it is the kind of new way of life and working. So what has happened is that when people have been forced to work from home for very, very long periods of time, organizations have now realized that we can work in different ways now, and we can actually adapt how our employees deliver work. So the reason why I'm sharing this is that for those who are freshers and graduates who are going to enter the workforce now, you will be entering a very, very different workforce than the one, for example, I entered to, some years back. There are organizations who are adapting permanent work from home. There's the concept of work from anywhere, which means employees can work wherever they want as long as they just have the tools with them, their laptop. And a lot of what you'll be seeing in maybe even in Bangladeshi companies are hybrid models where organizations will be using both a combination of working from office and working from home in a flexible manner to ensure social distancing at work, ensuring people's safety and security, and also enabling flexibility as a real benefit. And but what ultimately is the reality is that there has been huge economic impacts. This is a harsh reality, and a lot of sectors have been hard hit. For example, tourism, hospitality, RMG, informal sector, real estate as well. So these just are to name a few. But however, not to fear. With every challenge comes an opportunity, and the reality is that there are a few great opportunities that are arising through the pandemic. And as freshers entering the job market, though this is a challenging time, there has been studies going around. A2I, which is one of the bodies under the ICT division, has identified really a lot of employment opportunities emerging in 5 sectors. These are pharmaceuticals, ICT and commerce, e-commerce, which you will largely see due to the huge number of startups that have been, booming during this time. And while e-commerce was very, it's widely accepted in Western, countries, in Bangladesh it was still relatively low adopted, and now consumers are moving towards online shopping for good, for the convenience. Then we also have healthcare services, which is, of course, the need for telemedicine, accessible healthcare for everybody. This is a booming industry as well. Agro-food is also there because people are more and more concerned now with the kind of supply of, the sourcing of what they're eating, basically. And finally, I want to touch on creative media. This is basically, you will see that as more businesses are moving online, so is the need for digital content. So you'll see a lot of digital marketing consultants emerging, social media managers emerging. These are vastly in demand right now. Then we move on to, of course, the gig economy, which is also fast growing. So this is the economy of part-time workers, contractual work, freelancing. This is emerging hugely now as part of COVID-19 and its impacts. So what I want to just share is that what is the impact for you guys now through this through this COVID-19? What does it mean for a person entering the job market? Well, it means that the candidate experience is changing drastically. What used to be face-to-face interactions are now being replaced by virtual interviews. And to be honest, some organizations were better at doing it than others, but this is the reality. And a plus side is that most of the employers have now a much wider sorry for that. Now employers have a much wider candidate pool because of remote working. So, you can hire people from all over the country effectively, because as candidates, this is a tough time. I don't want to say that too much, but interviewing process is daunting. It's daunting with or without COVID. So what I would request is for everyone to kind of to adapt to these new changes so that you are the candidate that they would want. And one thing that the good thing about COVID is, I know that you've been learning for a good 6 months at least now, from home, but this is a great time to actually invest time in yourself, because the skills that you will need to just pass an interview are very different from the skills that you will need to actually sustain a career and sustain your livelihood sort of in an organization. So I think what I want to touch upon is some of the skills that I believe everyone, any graduate, any person who's, intending to enter an organization or to begin their career should start developing now so that they will be more equipped when they go ahead. So if I want to summarize some of the habits and skills per se for long-term success, I will. This seems like a very heavy slide, but I will go through it very quickly so that you don't get too lost in the words here. First of all, I think reading a lot. I mean, not just fiction or memes or just internet content, but this is really reading meaningful things. For example, books, journals, newspaper articles, any kind of articles that are showing what is going on in the world. Your knowledge level will only be enriched by how much you read. So please, my suggestion is read a lot. This is a great time to start investing in learning new skills. There is a plethora of, resources, websites that give you free courses. Go for hard skills which will help you in the future. Things like data literacy, analytics, coding. These can open up a lot of opportunities for you, not just as a potential employee, but as an potential entrepreneur as well. So you could be doing work for yourself. You could be a freelancer. You could be self-employed if you have certain skills which are highly in demand at the moment. And tech savviness is, I think, very, very key now. Everything we do now is on a Zoom call, on a Blue Jeans call, on some sort of virtual medium. So if you, as young people, are not tech savvy and able to grasp new technologies very quickly, this will be a challenge, So you should, I think you already have a benefit that you're much more tech savvy than even our generation, but keep this up. And one thing I want to highlight, both on critical thinking and EQ and IQ, these are things that can never be replaced by automation. We hear a lot about the fourth industrial revolution. We hear a lot about, jobs being replaced by robots, by automation, by AI and all that. But being able to think critically, solve problems critically, will always add value to your organization and wherever you are working. And when I talk about EQ versus IQ, this is like an age-old thing that everyone talks about. Successful professionals are the ones who have high emotional intelligence. It's just not enough to be book smarts anymore. And I believe that East Delta has, previously conducted even entire sessions on this topic, emotional intelligence. So I do reiterate, it's very important. And one thing, this is a personal mantra of mine, which I believe is agility is everything. So whenever you're in an organization, I think the greatest value that you could possibly add is the ability to learn something quickly and deliver it quickly with accuracy. So the better you are at learning, the more interested you are and capable you are at learning new things, which is essentially what learning agility is, the more productive and the more successful you can be. There is no doubt about it. So, I think it's time to reprogram your brain so that you want to learn, you get in the habit of learning, and then things will come easier to you when you're doing it. And finally, I want to touch upon two things, which are soft skills, of course, practicing how you consciously communicate, your habits in general, substitute for a good attitude. So just sharing a personal story that when I had my first job interview at Robi, and when I was selected in Robi, my CHRO at that time, the Chief Human Resources Officer, he told me that, Tasnim, I didn't hire you for your skills because you're a fresher. You don't have any developed skills yet. You will develop those along the way. But I hired you because of your attitude. So having a good, positive attitude, being humble, being sincere, being passionate, these will definitely go a long way. And when I would hire somebody, I would want to hire someone with a good attitude above everything else. So I think these all tie in with even EQ, agility, and all of that as well. So I don't want to prolong my presentation too much anymore. Just a very quick summary of what I've shared before I hand it over to Simin, who will take you more in depth into other areas. So while the pandemic is challenging, it is creating new job opportunities in certain sectors. So this is the time to get yourself prepared for how the new era of the workplace will be, and show people just how adaptable you are. And you should spend time now building the skills and the habits that you will need, not just now, but throughout your career. And most importantly, stay positive and resilient, because this will get you through these hard times. So without further details, maybe Rawnak, if you have any further questions, share now.
Okay. Tasnim, thank you so much for such a wonderful, presentation. Really enjoyed listening to you, and I'm actually very happy to share that in East Delta University we have 5 graduate attributes. So all our courses are designed in such a way that all these 5 university graduate attributes are somehow incorporated in every syllabus. And they are like, first is domain knowledge, second is research understanding, third is leadership development. But what I would want to talk about more is fourth, we have soft skill development, which you actually identified quite a few things like effective communication, critical thinking, problem solving, and emotional intelligence. So it makes me happy that we are teaching students the right things, something that they can, something that they will definitely use in the long run in their corporate jobs. So it's good that we are in the same line, as their academic teaching and their practical experience are, in the same wavelength. So great. I have one question from you. I think we will address some of the questions that we get from the audience. But I personally have a question from you that,
Sure.
COVID-19 has really changed many jobs. Like it has, shrunk the economy, and at the same time, it has created many different kinds of job opportunities, and it will create some job opportunities in the coming future. So if you could just tell me maybe two, positions or possible jobs or even skill sets apart from the ones that you said, that your organization or specifically the banking sector would be interested in for hiring new people.
Thanks. That's a really pertinent question, Rawnak. To be honest, the banking sector is quite hardly affected. I mean, quite hardly impacted by COVID-19. We are going through a tough time, but while we do have hiring freezes and limited recruitment, one thing that has kind of continued to go forward is technical skills. I would say we do hire a lot. Sometimes in IT, in core banking at times as well, sometimes in sales, relationship management. These will always be relevant. These skills and these jobs will always be there. But if I talk in more of a general perspective, I think that a lot of IT-based jobs will be booming a lot because of the wave of people moving towards e-commerce and buying online. So the more people are moving towards there will be many more jobs being created in terms of coders, analytics, social media managers, content creators, things like that. For the banking sector, I think IT would still be relevant. Sales jobs, while we will always need these jobs. We will always need people who are working in our operations as well. But the people who need to come into operations wouldn't be the traditional minded ones, rather who have a multiplex of, complexity of experiences that they can bring in. And I think that would cover it. Yeah, I hope that answers some of your questions.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that did perfectly. Okay, so now may I request our another speaker, Ms. Simin Chowdhury from Grameenphone, to kindly start her presentation. Thank you.
Rawnak, thank you so much for a humbling introduction, and East Delta University for arranging sessions like this and inviting me to share a little bit of my knowledge. So I hope I do some justice here. Let me share my presentation. Tell me if you can see it. Are you being able to see?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So today I'm going to talk about the recruitment experience during a COVID and after a COVID era. So what I'm going to talk about is the fact that we as humans are naturally bound to kind of control our lives. We want to control our fate. We want to control our destiny. But in Corona time, what happened is that we don't have a lot of control in our lives right now, right? People are getting sick, or there's an economic crisis. We don't know আমরা কোন job apply করবো, and there's আমাদের আসলে এখন কোনো medicine বের হয় নাই. So we feel like, we don't have a lot of control on our lives. So the whole point of my presentation is how to have a little bit of control of our life and our job search. So it's basically, I'm going to talk about how we can be the master of our own fate, and how we shouldn't play the victim and be controlled by external forces. আরেকটা হচ্ছে যে how do we make right choice consciously, মানে কোন জবে আমি আসলে which industry should I work for, কোথায় আমি কোন স্কিলটা আমি ইমপ্রুভ করব, এইগুলা নিয়ে একটু কনসিয়াসলি রাইট চয়েসেস মেক করা, আর হচ্ছে to be as ready as we can, হ্যাঁ, because এই টাইমটাতে things are a little slowed down, but how can we be ready in this time? And I'm going to talk about some variables. যদিও আমাদের কন্ট্রোল নাই লাইফে এখন, তো আমরা কোন কোন ভেরিয়েবল আসলে আমাদের কন্ট্রোল আছে, ওই ভেরিয়েবলস গুলো নিয়ে আমি কথা বলবো আজকে। সো আমি যদি একটু যাই রিক্রুটমেন্ট প্রসেসে, I kind of oversimplified the recruitment process here. Obviously, there are a lot of steps, but I kind of want to simplify so that I can make you understand better. So there are 5 steps of recruitment process. So the first is the recruitment plan. যেখানে companies are basically deciding কোন division এ মানুষ নিবে, what is the budget, how many people are they going to hire. So recruitment plan is that. And then the number 2 is the talent search. So the talent search is where we decide, are we going to look for people in a job portal, or are we going to post in LinkedIn, or are we going to hire somebody who is going to find people for us? So this is the talent search. Third point is screening and shortlisting. So this is where we are screening. So we set some criteria. Are we going to hire somebody with a higher GPA? Which universities are we going to look into? What are the skills we're going to look at? So this is what happens when you're screening. And then assessment is when we do interviews. We are taking sort of like a written exam, when we're doing culture tests and so on. So this is the assessment part. Then comes evaluation and employment offer. We evaluate your, the interviews and tests you've given, and then we evaluate and employ, and then send you an employment offer. So a pachta stepper modde, where the variables that you can actually work on is number 2, number 3, and number 4. Number 1 and number 5, actually, you don't have much control over it. Recruitment plan company, ja plan beta, that's their plan. That depends on their budget and growth plan. Evaluation is also, on the recruiters and the assessors. So where can you add value and where can you have more control? You can have more control in talent search, screening, and assessment. Meaning, when we are looking, companies are looking for talent, you are the talent we're looking for. When we are screening and shortlisting, you have the skills that we're looking for. When we're assessing, you are giving a great interview, or you're giving a great written exam. So I'm going to basically focus on number 2, number 3, and number 4, and what you can expect in these steps. So if we look at number 2 and number 3, which is the talent search and screening and shortlisting, what can you really do? Tasnim has covered a little bit of it, which is basically, taking advantage of your extra time. I would say do take extra advantage of your extra time, because it's a blessing in disguise for the fact that you have so much time in your hand. You don't have commute, you don't have to do transport. You have so much time in your hand right now. You can stand above the competition. You can stay ahead. You can do some extra homework. And you can do a bit of like you're updating your resume, and then updating your resume in hard copy, and then optimizing your LinkedIn profile. You can also apply and find jobs in BT Jobs, Skill Jobs, Chakri.com. But I would suggest do optimize your LinkedIn profile. The reason being, because if you're applying to bigger companies or like big companies or multinational companies that you want to apply to, these are companies that are going to look for talent. Even in this economic crisis, they're going to look for strong candidates, and they're going to do it in LinkedIn profile. So if you have your LinkedIn profile updated, you will be staying ahead. And also in LinkedIn profile, what you can do is you can network a little bit, you can send a message to somebody and kind of do a little bit of homework on companies. I'm not going to say not Netflix or social binge, because I'm also guilty of that. But at the same time, I would say that you can kind of curb it down a little bit. Make it like an hour a day. And then the rest of the time you could do something like learning a skill. And as Tasnim said that, there are so many skills that are trending right now, which will help you be the right candidate when we're doing a talent search. So these skills are like data analytics or a UX skill, or it could be statistics, it could be an Excel. And it doesn't even have to be something trending. It can be just something that you're interested in. Because if you're interested in something and you grow a skill in it, if you're good at it, you will be noticed. Some of my favorite learning platforms are Skillshare, Lynda, Coursera, and Udemy. I'm really requesting you to go through this, because there's some amazing courses here. They're free. Some of them are free. Some of them are paid. And you can look at these courses because they're provided by very big universities and also professors. And I'm pretty sure you will find something that you will find interest in. So this is how you can stand above the competition. You can also consider some temporary or contract work, because what you will see is that companies might want to hire for permanent employment. What they would want to do is that they would consider hiring for a stint for like 3 months. Say we need somebody who's going to create a website, or 4 months, we need somebody doing some data analytics work for 4 months. So do consider it so that you can broaden your horizon in the job search. and also be ready for mobility. I think mobility is necessary because when you're searching for jobs and when we are searching for talent, what happens is that we are looking for people who are willing to kind of do the extra mile. So even if somebody is, say, willing to not move, you might not be shortlisted. So I would say be ready for that. And also get ready for interviewing in phones and videos. And I know we do talk a lot on the phone and video, and we have a lot of experience talking to our friends and family, but I'm telling you, and I'm telling you again and again, doing a video or a phone call with a professional is going to be very, very different, because it is so important, and I can't stress enough, you need to have a good connection, you need to have a backup with your modem, you need a UPS connection so that the experience that you have with your interviewer is going to be very, very good. There cannot be any sound, there cannot be any lighting, there cannot be any bad lighting. There has to be a good background without any clutter. Your appearance has to be good, your voice tonalities has to be good, and you have to be comfortable with Zoom, Hangout, Skype, Teams, everything. You have to practice it out before anybody calls you for an interview or an assessment. And then there's the basic thing, demeanor. You have to be respectful, you have to make eye contact, and you have to have your mobile off. So these are some things that seem like common sense, but sometimes we do make the mistake. So just be wary of that. Also do learn some common questions and do learn about the company that you're applying to, and have the JD and resume ready. The reason why I'm saying this is because I know you will be applying to, say, 50 or 60 or 70, even hundreds of companies. And when you're doing that, you will lose track. You will lose track of the company that you applied to. You will lose track of the JD. You will forget where you applied. And this has happened, and I know from experience because I've interviewed so many people, and people have come and forgotten that why they've applied to that specific job. So I want you to be as organized as you can and make folders, make Excel sheets of places you're applying to, and have all that information put in. And I'm saying it from experience. And the most important thing is, as Tasnim said, that you have to be resilient and you have to stay positive. And the reason being is that whatever vibe you take in is the vibe you're going to give out. And the vibe you're going to give out is the vibe you're going to attract. So it's very important that you have to stay positive. Look at the good news. Look at people getting better rather than people who are getting sick. It will really up your game. If we move to the next slide. So basically, I'm talking about the variables you can take care of in talent search and screening and shortlisting. Another thing I would kind of add before I go to the next slide is that do look at other, like when you're applying to companies, that's great, but do look at talent management companies who are searching jobs for, bigger companies. So I'm not going to name names here, but they are available in LinkedIn, and also just Google them and see which are the companies that are doing some talent search. It would also help you out. So I'm going to talk about the assessment bit where you can kind of also up your game. So usually companies have 3 sets of assessment. So the first one being the written exam. And one of the written exam would be a functional test. And a functional test would be on the role that you're applying to. So it is going to be, say, if you're applying for a BI role, a business intelligence role, you'd have to know statistics. So the test is going to be on statistics. So it is usually, so I would say do a little bit of reading and practicing before you do sit for that test. Then some of the tests could be a verbal reasoning, a numerical reasoning, an IQ test. And these tests are basically, as the name says, they're logical. They will test your logic. They will test your number skill. They will test your intelligence level. And I would say you can practice with them online. Your generation is very lucky because everything is available on Google. But if you want to stress it a little bit, do sit for SAT exams, which is the Scholastic Aptitude Test. These are tests that will really help you practice. And then there is a gamification test. Gamification is basically a very robust kind of scientific psychometric test. And these tests are very fun and engaging to do. So they feel like, it will feel like you're in a game and you're kind of interacting with the game, and then you will up your level and then go to the next level. It won't feel like a test. So these are some tests that a lot of companies do. You can YouTube it, or you could Google it as well. Grameenphone also does it in various assessments. We also have business personality tests, culture fit tests, and in-tray tests. So a business personality test would be to kind of test your personality, as in if it's, are you a multitasker? Are you a project person? What kind of personality do you have? And does it match with the role? And a culture fit test would be to see if your values and principles are in alignment with the company. So these are tests that are done by a lot of companies because as a lot of people say that attitude and the culture fit is more important than the skill itself. So, and then comes the in-tray test. That is basically, it's kind of checking your stress level, whether you are being able to kind of work under stress. Can you multitask? So these are, so the culture fit test, in-tray, and business personality tests are usually done for, say, maybe a little higher level, but then a lot of companies do it for all levels. So that's why I wanted to kind of mention it. And then the second phase of assessment would be, the screening interviews, which is the most important part of assessment. Here, usually interviews are traditional interviews, and then there is competency-based interviews. So a traditional interview is like an open-ended question, like anybody can ask you, which is like, tell me about your work experience, or like, what are your strengths and weaknesses, or how have you improved your skill over the last couple of months? So these are some traditional questions that they may ask, interviewers may ask. And a competency-based interview would be an interview that will basically ask you more example-based answers. So a question would be like, tell me about a situation when you had a difficult problem. Give me an example where you led a project or you motivated someone. So the difference is that in a traditional interview, you can hypothesize a situation, meaning that you can kind of think of a hypothetical situation and give your answer. But in a competency-based interview, it would be more like from your experience and from an example. And then the questions after that will be more deep diving. It is a little bit more complicated than a traditional interview. So I would say that definitely before you sit for an interview, you should practice these kind of questions and answers. And then finally, the last assessment is the functional interview, or the cultural, behavioral, cognitive, or personality interviews. This is basically the last interview. If you make it through the functional test, the first assessment and the second assessment level, and if you're and you're in the last level, what happens is here they want to kind of see if you're fit for the role in the, value-wise, principle-wise, personality-wise. And sometimes they may ask you more functional questions like, what do you want to do with this specific role in 2 years? How do you want to develop in this role? So there might be functional questions as well. So the reason why I wanted to give you a sort of like an overview of this assessment is because I want you to be ready, even when you're searching for a job. Because when you're searching for a job, you will get a feel of the companies, and then you will get a feel of the kind of assessment that they'll do. And then I'll move to the next slide. And here I want to talk about the assessment center, and how is the assessment center different from the normal recruitment. Is we use an assessment center for management trainee programs. Most companies use assessment centers for management trainee programs. And I know a lot of you who are graduating are interested in this program. So what does an assessment center do? It kind of has a lot of exercises to judge applicants' strengths and improvement areas, and not only listen to the right answers that you have to give. A lot of traditional questions when recruiters ask, and you know how they won the answer. So you are able to say the ideal answer. So recruiters have gotten smart, and now they want to see you present and do business cases and be yourself, and then figure out how you really are, rather than hearing it from you. So in the management trainee assessment center, what we do is we have some ability screening tests, which is basically a numerical test or a logical reasoning test, or even a gamification. And then after you pass that and you come and you are selected for the competency-based interviews, we ask you the questions and you give your examples, and then we deep dive into the examples. And I'm not going to get into the details of it. You can check it online. So after we deep dive and find all the examples and basically if you are able to kind of logically think or not, we try to find that answer, and then we select you for the business case and individual presentations to panel. So what the business case does is we will give you a problem and then you will have to solve it. And there's necessarily no right answer. So we want to see how you kind of think, how you logically think, and how you logically solve problems. And then we will request you to kind of present. And then once you present, we will, and recruiters will ask you questions like kind of debate with you and see if you're able to kind of defend your argument. So, and then also we will look at your presentation skills. So your soft skills come into the picture here. And then once you pass through this, you have to go through role plays and group discussions. Role play and group discussions are very important because it will test how you interact with others. It will test how you work under stress. It will test you to see how you handle a debate and whether you're able to kind of answer at that point if somebody's asking a question, rather than be prepared from the beginning. So it's kind of very interesting, and there will be a panel to kind of check you whether you are being able to kind of handle the group. So this is how an assessment center is run for management trainee programs. So if I kind of wrap it up, what I want to say is that the reason why I wanted to give you a sort of like an overview is because I do want you all to feel like you have some control over this. It's not always dependent on the companies, and it's not, the power is not completely in corporate houses and they are the ones searching and you're only lucky to be selected. It's not that at all. It's about hard work. It's about, getting the right skills. It's about being ready. It's about, being proactive. It's about getting yourself to be out there and, better than others. But at the same time, we also have to remember that, COVID-19 is a health crisis and it is an economic crisis. So you have to be a little patient. If you're applying to 50 jobs and you're not getting a call, apply to more 50 jobs, because this is just what the situation is right now. Maintain your mental health, because your physical health is obviously important. I don't need to say that, but your vibe is so important. You need to be, really positive in this, because as I said, the vibe you take in, you give it out, and then you attract that again. And then your health and safety is very important. Do wear a mask. I can't stress enough. And be very wary online, because when you're applying online, don't send out your CV to a person with a personal email. Do send it out to a company, to a person with a company email. So be careful of what you're doing online. And also rock it, because I've been to your university and I have seen the students, and I really believe that you guys will do well, and I really wish the best for you. Thank you so much.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Simin Apu. That was a really good presentation. And, I personally learned a lot from it, because, especially your detailed structure about the recruitment stages. We do have a department in East Delta University that is networking and placement office, and we conduct regular sessions for students and prepare them for the job market, telling them what, how should they prepare themselves for an interview, assessment center, and overall for the job market. So I think your inputs really added to it, and maybe we can host more sessions for students to better groom them for the job market. We have two questions from the audience. One is by Mahfuza Rahat Noshin. She's asking which job market will have most vacancy post COVID-19. So I guess Tasnim has roughly mentioned.
Do you want me to just touch upon it again?
If you,
yeah, okay. So just to highlight, so there's been numerous studies that has happened on the most impacted and the most promising job opportunities or sectors with employment opportunities in Bangladesh. So I'm referring to a study that was done by A2I, and they've mentioned, I'll just reiterate again, that there's 5 key sectors where there are likely to be more jobs created in the next, within 2020 and up to 2021. And these are pharmaceuticals. I think that's a no-brainer. Pharmaceuticals, especially even the construction site, or the manufacturing part of pharmaceuticals like PPs and things like that. ICT and e-commerce, which I want to reiterate on, because this industry will create a lot of online jobs, like digital social marketing consultants, social media managers, content creators, even engineers, developers, a lot of tech skills. So this sector will create a lot of jobs. Healthcare services is already there, and healthcare services doesn't mean just doctors. People who are facilitating telemedicine. These are new jobs that are emerging as well. I mentioned agro-food as well, because a lot of startups are actually moving into this industry. And finally, creative media, which is overlapping a little bit with e-commerce as well, because it's more about the content creation part and making more content that's available online for people to attract them toward these e-commerce businesses. So these are not my words. These are basically what research has said, and I do agree with them, because I do feel that these are promising areas.
Okay, thank you, Tasnim. Next, we have another question from Fairuz Shahri. How can we prepare ourselves? I think this has been repeatedly said by Tasnim and Simin, both of you, on leadership, soft skill development, upskilling. A lot of things have been said, so I don't think we can repeat. We have to repeat that. But thank you for your questions, Nosheen, Fairuz. There's another question from Kamul Kormokor, which says, which jobs aren't coming back after COVID-19? So, Tasnim, would you like to say something about it, or Simin, or you can go one by one? First, Tasnim can say, and then Simin can comment on that.
Sure, I'm not really a fortune teller in that way that I can say that job will never come back again. But as I mentioned, there are a lot of sectors that have been hard hit, like tourism, ceramics, leather goods, RMG. But what you can see, though, is a lot of them are making their comebacks as well. They are reviving as demands are coming back and jobs are normalizing again. So you will see that, RMG, which was very, very hard hit and which is one of the backbones of our economy, is now coming back as well. Tourism, I think it will fundamentally change, because, having people in crowded places and things like that is not something we may not see immediately. So this is a part I think will be quite hard hit. But again, a lot of countries have managed their COVID situation much better and are now inviting tourists back in. So I don't want to say that no job will exist after COVID, because I think that might be a little drastic to say. But there are, places that have been hit. And in Bangladesh, which is less relevant for you guys, the informal sector has been hit a lot. People who own, small tea shops and things like that, which are really centered around people gathering and not so hygienic conditions and not social distancing. I think those have been tremendously hit. So while those won't impact your job prospects that much, but you will see maybe a society changing, after this.
Right.
I'm actually a little positive, because I feel like everything has been, and I agree with Tasnim. I think everything has been hit momentarily for a little bit of time, maybe for a year, and I can't say that it won't. These sectors are not going to make a comeback. They will. It'll just take some time. And I do agree. I think the entertainment business, as in when hotels and then tourism, these will be affected. And I think the modality of business has to just change. That's just it.
Okay, thank you, Tasnim and Simin. And I see a huge, we see a huge increase in online bakeries and online, restaurants. at least what I saw was in one of the articles, it said Chittagong has had some 1,000 restaurants since the pandemic started, like online bakeries and online restaurant chains. So I think that food business is doing very well because everyone's become a chef now. Right. So I have a question for Simin Apu. So we have students, which we see in all universities in Bangladesh, that they carry a very good CGPA, maybe even 3.7 or 3.8 or more. But they somehow fail to get their desired jobs. And some of them even pass the initial stage, written tests or interviews, but they don't seem to manage the last leg of the final interview. So what do you think? What is the reason behind this?
Okay, so I did cover it a little bit in my slides. So what happens is, when you're in a university and your CGPA is really good, it's good, but you're still living in a bubble in that university. But when you're going out to the world and you're applying and you're then competing with people from other universities who have even, maybe equivalent or even better CGPAs. And then there are people who are coming back from abroad. And then they are also competing in that market. So what happens is not necessarily you're not good, but maybe somebody's better fit. And it doesn't necessarily mean that that person's CGPA is better. It's just that maybe in a conversation, or as you've seen, the assessment is very tricky. So maybe at that point in time, the assessors thought that that person is best fit for that role. So the only way you can really improve your chances is to practice and to read up on these assessments. What are the type of assessments these companies go through? Are usually generally corporates go through. So I'm pretty sure a lot of students don't even know what is a competence-based interview or what is a traditional interview. They only know that there's interview. But you have to can't expect that you go to an interview and you think of something immediately. You need practice. So I think that's where I think enough practice of written exams, enough practice of doing it maybe with a friend or with a family member, just kind of doing it again and again. And I think that will maybe change the game.
Okay, great. Very rightly said. And I have one last question before we end. Actually, we've been very good with our timing. We have just a few minutes before we finish an hour into today's webinar. So we see a lot of multinationals in Bangladesh are now, highly involved in grooming their employees as entrepreneurs. Simin, would you like to share if Grameenphone is also working on such initiatives at the current moment? I'm asking you this question because in East Delta University, and I hear of many other universities like even North South BRAC and others, we have started a startup foundry for the students to kind of start thinking as having their own ventures, because not everyone wants to work for someone. Not everyone wants to have like a corporate job. Some of us students are very intelligent, as in all are, and some have very unique ideas. We see in our presentations, when we speak to them, they're full of ideas. So we really want to groom them and help them to start their own ventures. So in line with this, I would also want to ask you that if there is something like this in Grameenphone, and are we thinking in the same wavelength as the corporates?
So what GP does is that it has these amazing programs like the accelerator program, and then and I don't know if you know what the accelerator program is. It is basically a sort of like a cohort-based or mentor-led innovation platform, and it basically kind of tries to find people with amazing ideas and then make prototypes of it. And great companies have come out of it, like Sheba XYZ, and then CMED Health, and then Alter Youth. These are some companies that have come out of this program. And other than that, what we do is we do allow our employees to kind of spin off and make projects that will build a product. So it can be like Shoparu, you know, which is basic in e-commerce and logistics. And then we have the GP Music. And then we have Bioscope, which is basically live TV on your phone. So these are things that we kind of spin off and make as projects. And these are employees who are doing that and acting as if this is its own company or its own project, having its own budget. And that's how we make and prepare our employees to do things like that. And not only our employees, GP Accelerator we're giving seed money to these people who are coming in with good ideas. So we're not only helping our employees, but we're also helping people with amazing ideas like this. So, and we also practice agile and different various sort of Scrum methods, and we want people to think in, project based, and you're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to kind of try something out. You're allowed to take risks. So this is how we kind of, encourage entrepreneurship.
Okay, that's amazing. We have two more questions. Sorry, I'm just going to quickly address them. One is by Deep Sen. What are the voluminous, surreptitious to get success as an entrepreneur in your view? I think point of view, something like that he meant. I think he meant like hacks or secrets to get success as an entrepreneur. I don't think there is any hacks or any shortcut, but would any of you like to comment, if you are thinking of becoming an entrepreneur, what may be the topmost skill that you'd need? Tasnim, would you like to say?
Sure. I think that when you read about any famous entrepreneur, anywhere in the world, you will hear something very common, which is that they've gone through numerous failures, brilliant, and they, stood strong until they could really go for what they wanted. So I think that is the common trait between all the, great leadership stories that I hear, that these people didn't give up, simply put. And, whether it's Jack Ma, who, once I got to see him in, speaking live in Malaysia, he talked about how his failures changed him and how it enabled him to, start making Alibaba a very successful business, even very late in his career. He wasn't a young entrepreneur, Most of the people who've achieved success as an entrepreneur didn't give up. They really knew what they were passionate about, and they persevered consistently. I think with those things, coupled with, of course, a winning idea, finding something that addresses an unaddressed problem, I think these coupled together would make an entrepreneur kind of successful. But again, which Rawnak had just said, there's no shortcuts when you're an entrepreneur. There's no shortcuts anywhere in life, but definitely not when you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And there's a last question by, again, Komul Kormukor. One of my colleagues shared an article with me today that says COVID-19 is going to kill the pen and paper signature. What do you say? Simin, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, now we're doing a completely new way of work. For the last 6 months, I've been working from home. For 6 months, I've been home and I've been working. So I think what he means is, will we be staying home? I mean, will we be, doing a different kind of a new normal? And I think that's what we're doing. I mean, GP is supposed to be out there in the field, talking to retailers, talking to our field forces, selling our SIMs and, credit and so on. But then we're doing it from home, at least for the last 6 months. So I would say it's not going to kill it, but I would say the new way of work is that you have to balance it out. I think there will be times where you need to stay safe and stay home, and there will be times you will be going to the field. So we don't know. I'm not a fortune teller. I mean, we don't know what is coming yet, but I think the best thing to do right now is to kind of, embrace it as it comes.
Yeah,
can
exactly.
I just add a point here, if you don't mind, Rawnak? Working in banking and, the fact that everything is, assigned, customer account form, account opening form, a remittance form, a this form, a that form. We live on pen and paper signatures, and it's largely not because we don't want to automate, but because we have strict regulations from our, central bank and our regulatory bodies, which say that we have to take pen and paper signatures. But what has happened due to COVID is that we manage non-face-to-face ways to kind of address these, so that we don't actually destroy our business just because we are not being able to meet our customers face-to-face.
Right.
So what this has in turn resulted in is long-term changes in the way we are engaging with our customers. And while definitely there will still be some pen and paper signatures left, but if it were our way, I think we would go fully digital, fully paperless if possible. But it is changing the way we have worked, and I think we've saved a lot of paper in the last 6 months. That's for sure.
Interestingly enough, I bought my Sanchai Patro from Standard Chartered Bank, and I did it completely online by signing everything and then just kind of sending it through email. So even though it was not a digital sign, but I like the fact that I didn't have to go to the bank, and then I could just do it from home. So I think the new way of work is just going to be this.
For sure.
Right. We just have to adapt to the changes.
Yeah.
That's how to survive and do well. So thank you, audience. We've got very interesting questions from all of them. And I think with this, we come to the end of our session. Firstly, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to both our speakers, Ms. Tasnim and Ms. Simin, for giving us so much time, sharing your wonderful insights. And we really know how busy you both are, and still being with us today, it means a lot to us. I would like to thank the EDU management, especially our Vice Chairman, sir, Mr. Saidul Noman. Even though, like everything else, even the webinar initiative is his idea. So thank you. I would like to thank the organizers, the IT team of East Delta University, for organizing this knowledge sharing session that is not only going to help our students, but everyone watching us, the rest of the youth, to prepare themselves better for the upcoming days in the job market. I would like to thank the audience for being with us, for supporting us, and for their wonderful questions, because it really helps us to get further into the topic. And stay well, stay connected, support each other in every possible way during this time. Even though I believe that we really never got done with the first wave of the virus, but and it still seems like a plateau, right? But apparently the second wave is coming, and we should prepare ourselves. So stay socially distant and intellectually engaged. Thank you. Stay well.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.